Well Life with Linda Harris, and I probably don't have to introduce my guest because I'm sure you guys know her. She's on all of our shows a lot, Dr. Jean White. And but you know what? We had a good time today, didn't we? I want to do a shout out to John's Gifts and Furniture. We have a business meeting we go to, and they did an open house for all of us in the group today. And although a lot of you around here know about John's Gifts and Furniture, you know, I live in Wilson. I had no idea all the things they have to offer, and they have a women's boutique now. That's where I got these earrings. So if you want to go shopping for some wonderful clothes, jewelry, furniture, whatever you need, and they will help you. And I'm sure most of you do know who they are. But that was a good time today, getting to know that and doing the tour. I've got you here today, and before we dive into our topic, I wanted to, we'll go ahead and get us out of the way so we can really get into what we want to talk about. You shared something at Business Builders about the thermography, when you had thermography in your dental thing. Do you mind sharing that? And
I don't mind sharing that at all. I came to see Linda, it was a while back, I don't remember exactly when it was, because I wanted a cardiac thermography, because I'd had some heart issues, and I just wanted to see, you know, I didn't want to keep going back into x-rays and using dyes and all that kind of stuff. Just see what happened, you know, if there's anything I need to be concerned about.
Exactly.
So I came in, and Linda was doing the thermography on the chest for the cardiac, and she said, I'm seeing something, I don't know what it is, in your head. So do you mind if I do a head and neck and just add that on? And she said, I won't charge you for doing it. I'll charge you for the interpretation, but not for doing it, just because I'm doing it for me. You know? And I said, well, sure, if you see something that you think needs to be dealt with, let's do that. So she did. So the interpretation, when it was interpreted, it said that there was something going on up here in my jaw. Couldn't say what it was. There's something that just wasn't right there. I needed to get it checked out. And so Linda told me that, and she said, I think you need to see your dentist. Well, I didn't know Linda very well then. I was first getting to know her, and I said, nothing wrong with my jaw. You know, I don't have any pain in my jaw, no swelling, and there's nothing going on up there. I don't know why I would want to go to the dentist, and he's going to do all kinds of.
Because I think you had x-rays the month before, didn't you?
I did, just in my routine, yearly checkup. Those pan things that go around all the way around your head. And nothing showed up there, you know. So I said, I'm not going to worry about this. And I go and I tell him that thermography shows something. He's going to do all these expensive tests and not find anything, and I'm going to waste all this money. I'm not going to go to the dentist. So I didn't go. Well, a couple months later, I was out to lunch and with a friend, and I bit down on something and cracked my bottom tooth. Not up here in this part of the jaw, but the bottom tooth. And I went into the dentist, and he said, well, we can fix that. He said, but did you know that you have an abscess up here? And I said, no, I didn't know that. And he said, well, you do, and it's been there for a little while because it's been festering inside for a while, built a lot of pressure up because it has eaten its way through to the inside of your mouth. And now the infection is coming out, and it's a small hole, so you probably aren't aware of it coming out. But you need to go, we need to send you to an endodontist, because if you've had that much pressure in there and you didn't feel it, that tooth is dead. And so you need to go and let her, so you don't want to lose your teeth, so let's let her do a root canal so you can save your tooth. So I went to see the endodontist, but he said, I can't do anything with this tooth today because you got an infection. So let's put you on antibiotics and then come back and I'll take care of this tooth. But in the meantime, let's send you over to see the endodontist. So I went to see the endodontist, and she did all these tests and everything, tested the nerves and looked at everything, and she said, well, the good news is that I don't think you need a root canal. She said, I can do a root canal if you want me to, but it's not going to solve the problem. She said, the problem is that the bone up here in your upper jaw is necrotic. It's dying, you know. And so there's areas of necrosis in your dead bone in your upper jaw from taking bisphosphates for osteoporosis. Now, I'm a nurse practitioner, so I know, we've always known that there's a a very low possibility, but there's that possibility that women who take bisphosphates will develop necrosis in their jaw. Why just this bone and not any other bone? I don't know.
That makes
I don't
sense,
think
doesn't it?
anybody really knows why, but it's always in the
Yeah.
jaw if it's from the bisphosphates. It's a very effective treatment for osteoporosis, usually.
Yeah.
Not in everybody, but it is. But it's not. But it is something that can happen. And so I said, well, I told her about the thermography. She said, well, why didn't you go see your dentist? I said, I wish I had. I wouldn't have gotten an
avoided all of
infection,
that. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
she
and
couldn't.
that's why I did that, because I notice things sometimes in thermography, and one of the things I have learned is your dental. It affects, and a lot of us, I don't think we realize how important our dental health
Right, we
is
don't.
to our heart, to our brain, to anything. Infection can go anywhere from there. It can go up or down, and
Yeah.
cause clogged arteries, heart attacks, anything like that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
brain
Sure.
aneurysm, anything. It can literally kill you if you're not taking
Right,
care of it. So, every once in a while I do notice something with I'm doing a
So I'm glad she checked it out, but I wish I had listened to
But
her.
next time you're going to listen to me,
Next
Rob,
time I'm
when
gonna
you
listen
do
to you,
your
yeah.
Yearly whatever,
Yeah.
we'll check you out and make sure things
So
are
when
going.
she had to go in there and scrape all that dead bone out, and I had to go back a couple
Yeah.
of times to get it, make sure it was all gone. And she cleaned it out and everything, come back and scrape me out.
Well,
So
just since you're such a good friend, the next time you're around me with my camera, we won't send it off. We're just going to look and make sure there's not any lingering
okay.
stuff. How about that?
Okay.
Just so we can
Yeah.
take a peek and make sure
Okay.
everything's healed good.
Well, she as she's working, she said, "What are you taking for your osteoporosis now that you're now, are you still? And you told me you'd stop taking the Fosamax, and I said, yeah, to stop taking it a year ago. I'd been dealing with this. I had osteopenia, and I was on a medication, and the next time I got the DEXA scan done, it was worse.
Oh, okay.
So she changed the medicine, and 2 years later, it was worse again. And then the last time I had a DEXA scan done, it showed I had osteoporosis.
Oh.
So I've been on 3 different medicines, and it was getting worse. I said, what do we do now? She said, well, I don't have anything else to offer you. We'll just stay on this medicine. And I'm thinking, I don't think so. So, and I knew Linda Precioso. She's the one that has the show right after this one.
Yeah.
And I knew that she did hormone therapy. And so I went and talked to her about it. And I said, I know a lot about hormone therapy, and it can be dangerous for women, cause cancer, breast cancer especially. And she said, yes, it can, but what I do is bioidentical hormones.
Yeah.
And they do not cause cancer.
Exactly.
They're perfectly safe, but most physicians don't want to prescribe them because they're not controlled by the FDA. But if you go to somebody who's reputable,
Well, because they're not controlled by the pharmaceutical companies.
yeah, right, that is reputable, that you trust,
Yes.
to get to get them. I know exactly. So I
Yeah.
go to Biote. I trust them. I use them, and they've done lots of research, and I know that they control what goes into those pellets.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, I
So
truly
I
believe
got-
in the natural hormones. And we need, and the thing is there's for years we were told, well, we get past menopause, we get to a certain age, and you get to about 60, you don't need hormone replacement anymore. And they have found now through years of research how important it is for us to still have hormones.
Right.
Now, it is, I think, kind of recommended for women who have had breast cancer not to do that or to do things different. There are foods you can eat and things you can do that can help. There is a natural way, to
well,
deal with
bioidentical
things.
hormones, you can if you've had breast cancer, you can still take them.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are afraid.
They're afraid to
though.
because they've been
Yeah,
told that
exactly.
especially if you have breast
Yeah.
cancer, you can't use hormones. Well, these are not the natural. These are bioidentical hormones.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
you can take them if you have breast cancer.
Yeah. And it's good that we have things like
Yeah,
that.
it is. But
Well, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
I just want people to understand and realize, I talk about thermography most every show. Every once in a while I won't do it, but not that I talk in depth about it, but I do mention it to people. But I just want them to realize there's tools out there. We have tools that you can use in conjunction with other things. And the reason it picked that up, and she had x-rays the month before, is because it was in the process of developing and maybe had not quite got to that point yet. And so probably if the x-rays had been when she went to that last visit, it may have picked it up then. But then also
After the infection developed, right?
Yeah, and sometimes infection itself is not going to show up on an X-ray. You're going to have another kind of scan. So just to let you know, thermography works, and it is helping many people all over. Okay, so you know what our topic is today, Jean? I kind of tried to give her a briefing earlier today. We've been so busy. I've got a little title for today. It's called Decoding the Hype Surrounding Weight Loss. And I guess I thought about that because even though, I know you do weight coaching, I know you do, you help people get over some of their stuff that keeps them from, going and using food. It's the same thing I do, kind of in a different sort of way, but we try to work with people in their whole body.
Right.
And so I thought, there's so much out there. Everyone asks. One thing, remember today when we were at the meeting, someone was asking me about the Verjus inch loss machine we
right.
have,
Mm-hmm.
and her question was, and we both kind of perked up like, well, we can tell you the answer, but her question was, is that permanent? And of course, you spoke up before I did, and that
I said weight loss is not permanent.
Yeah,
if you don't eat right after you lose weight, it's coming back.
That's exactly right. Everybody wants a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
They want something that's going to be quick. They sometimes don't care how expensive it is, as long as they don't have to work at it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because it's hard to work at it, and there's different things that we do when we're working with you. When I'm working with people with wellness, when Jean's working with losing weight or gaining weight, all these things. But there's so much out there. Everybody's like, what do we do? So, we have to, first of all, let me say this, because I wanted to, people are, I'm going to say it like this. First of all, we're all unique individuals.
Right.
Okay, so we're unique, and our personal wellness or weight loss journey should be about us, about our individual walk, our journey, because a lot of times there's things from our past that we can't let go of that's causing that. Again, it's the mental, the physical, the spiritual,
Mm-hmm.
emotional, all of those things. What do you think about that? Share some of your thoughts about that, approaching things from that way. And
Well, I think that any clinician, and I consider you a clinician, even though you're not medical.
well, thank you.
Yeah. Any clinician has to listen to their client.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go in with a preset, do this, and this in this order, and say, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because that may not work for that person.
Mm-hmm.
If she says, I've done that before and it didn't work,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
you don't say, well, it'll work this time.
Yeah.
That's what we kind of want to do, because we've seen this work so many times. We don't. We want to.
Exactly.
But if that, then you need to explore why didn't that work.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you really stick to the whatever it was?
Exactly.
Because sometimes
Yeah.
they say they tried that before and it didn't work, and when you really talk to them about it, they didn't really do that.
Mm-hmm. I'll never forget my first weight loss and wellness coaching person, and she came in. It was someone who was coming to someone else at my business or some other services, and she knew that I was doing that, or that I was beginning to start it. And she said, "I want to be your first client." She came in that day with one of those great big huge McDonald cups full of sweet tea, and when she sat down, and before I could even begin with her, she sets her cup down, and she says, "Well, first of all, before we begin, I just want to tell you, I'm not going to blend anything. I'm not going to drink shakes. I don't like to exercise, and I don't like to cook." And she went through about 15 things that she did not like to do.
Right.
And I said, "Well, why are you here?"
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she had already paid her, deposit to come and everything else. And I thought, why are you here? And I asked her, why are you here? Because I can't, and you can't, we can't force anybody to do that.
No, you can't.
And I know on working with, well, actually she wasn't, she was my third one, I'm thinking back. But working on her plan, I meet with them, we get their information, we give them some things to do initially, but we don't overdo it because it can be so overwhelming. But I remember I went home that night and I had my computer on my lap trying to figure out what to do, and I just sat there. I must have been in some days, because finally my husband said, "Are you okay?" I said, "I don't know what to do with this woman," because I felt like, why are you here if you're going to tell me what you're not going to do? And some people, at least she was honest about it. She did try to stick with some things for 3 or 4 months, but she was right the first day she came in that she just wasn't going to do it. So I don't know, maybe she just needed some company or someone to talk to, because we do go into other issues, things that affect people. Everybody's different when they come in to talk to you. And again, like I said, we're having to look at other things. Why do we eat? For me, I try to eat as healthy as possible. But you know what? When I get extremely overworked or have a lot of stress from things like that, I want to eat. And usually I can go all day and not eat. Yeah. And the minute I stop and sit down, it's like I start thinking about, I sure would like to have this, or I sure would like to have that. So I have to, talk to myself and say, okay, now you know what this is because you teach it every day.
Right.
So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that for people?
When somebody comes in with 15 different things they're not going to do.
They don't want to do.
Well, when they come in and they say, okay, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, and they give me this list of things they don't want to do. And I said, well, all of those things are probably the reason why you're overweight. Because you don't want to do those things. They're things you need to be doing to be healthy. And I said, so would you be willing to try changing just not all 15 of them, but just changing one of them?
Exactly.
So it's not overwhelming,
Small steps.
Like I had somebody that drank carbonated water, carbonated beverages all the time, sweet. I said, so what we did was we started with changing from sweet to artificially sweetened, okay? And then, which is not good for you either, but it's better than sugar, right?
Yeah, you get used to not tasting that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then we started watering it down, and we kept watering it down till she could barely taste the carbonation, and she just went to water after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was slowly,
process.
we got process getting her off of that sweet carbonated beverages.
Yeah.
And she was losing weight just because of that.
Oh, yeah.
And then once she did that and got that a habit, then we said, okay, now you got 14 other things here. Which one would you like to work on next?
Yeah, and you kind of pick it from that. Well, you know what's interesting, though? When you do remove those sugars, your food tastes so good. Fresh food. People say, oh, I don't like this, it doesn't have a flavor. You begin to taste the flavors in the good, healthy, fresh foods that you eat. It's amazing.
Yes, you do.
I drink water all the time. That's what I got in my Epiance cup. Another shout out this week to Epiance Skincare, by the way. I like to do that every show. But you taste your food. But another thing that happens is, like, she realized when you were working with her that she did it. Yeah. It's a step she did. You're one step closer. And we were talking about it too. I think it was last week when we were talking in our group, and you said something about gaining weight, and everybody looked and said, gain weight. And so I want to stop here real quick and say, wanting to lose weight is not the only reason people go to a health coach or wellness coach or anything, because there's some people who, no matter what they do, cannot gain weight, and so they're not healthy because maybe their body's not getting the right nutrients. So I know Jean works, on both of those, in both of those areas. I want to.
The commercial.
Yep, that's what I could. I kind of missed going to the commercial. Lee, I think I'm going to let you just take a commercial real quick, and we'll be right back.
We're in our 18th year of practice at the Hammer Chiropractic Center, and we've seen over 15,000 different people in the Rocky Mount area. 40% of headaches actually come from a neck problem. Many patients come in taking multiple aspirin, over-the-counter medications and such a day, and we can get you to stop doing that and actually fix the problem so the headaches don't arise anymore. A lot of people think chiropractic hurts. It does not. Most of the people come in and they feel great when they leave.
So here I am with Jean, Dr. Jean White, with Get Healthy with Dr. Jean, right?
Right.
And we've been talking about weight loss or weight gain or just weight in general. Kind of the hype in weight loss with choosing, people get confused about what diets to do, what things they need to do, and so we're kind of trying to discover those things. I'm probably going to do kind of a series in this to cover different things, maybe with different people. But I wrote this little note. I'm always talking about, you guys hear me all the time say, well, my mom said this, because mom always knows best, right? But my mom used to tell me all the time, beauty is skin deep. But she told me that because, you need to act beautiful. But I thought about that when I was doing my notes for the show. And so it made me think, a lot of us will see, and I know we're all that way. I'm sure men are that way too, but you will see this beautiful, shapely woman,
right.
and you think she's perfect, and you think, oh, if I could just be that way. But do you know, when she looks in the mirror, she feels the same way we do. Because we always find our flaws. We are always looking at that. And if we could remember that not everyone else sees us that way.
Right.
But the reason for that, I think, is because of the mental and emotional part of weight loss. It's more than, it's not all about, your BMI. We're all shaped different. We're all created different. And I believe we're all beautiful in God's eyes. But we want to be healthy. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to look good in your clothes and, those things. I think, it's good for us. But I think the reason we have that negativity, part of that, I believe, is because of society and what they put on women especially for how they think we should look. And the other part is we have a lot of emotional and other things to deal with. So we tend to look at our outward appearance when we really need to be looking and working on some of those inside things too, because taking care of those, we talk about body mass index, how much you weigh, how much you exercise, all those, but looking at that inside, the inside of us. Mm-hmm. So it's like, who do we see when we look in the mirror? What do we see? What do we see on the inside of us? So what do you do when you're working with people on the emotional or physical? I know you've got little steps because we've talked about it before. Again, not just a program for everybody, but
right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there are a lot of, and there are some people that they need more help than I can give them, mm-hmm. and I'll tell them you're really not going to lose this weight until you deal with this issue in your life. You need to see a psychiatrist, or you need to see a counselor or a therapist or somebody like that. And I'll tell them that, I'm not leaving you. I'm not saying don't come back until you've done that. I'll walk with you through that. And,
exactly.
And you can talk about it if you want to. After you see the therapist, if you want to talk about your session, we can do that. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they need more help than I can give them. And so that's any good clinician knows when they've reached their limit.
Yeah, when it's that.
Even a physician will refer to other physicians because it's an area they don't specialize in. And so,
exactly.
Yeah.
I had a client that came to me once because they couldn't even get an appointment or find anyone else. And they came to me, and I thought more about health and wellness, but really what they needed more was therapy, and they were depressed and all. And, it's funny because I didn't realize this. I had names of different people I would refer to, but you have to be so careful because of HIPAA referring to a psychiatrist or a therapist. So anyway, we finally were able to get him the information he needed to get someone else, and he went right along, and I think improved, so that was good. But sometimes I immediately, I was like, this is really out of my scope, and I think you need to see. And so sometimes we have to do that. Linda Prezioso's over there making faces
we
at us.
We just got finished talking about you, Linda.
All good, I'm sure.
Yes. But we need to know. But I also know that in working with a program, because I used to work with you a little bit in the Optavia that you do and everything, and when I'm working with people in wellness, and which results in weight loss and other things too, we do have to look at what's going on or some things that have happened. Keeping journals, we do the journaling.
Yeah.
You do. So I know that's some of the things you do. We do journaling. You just kind of have to look within. So, instead of focusing so much on your outside, if you can correct and look at and heal from the things that have happened within. And sometimes it can be a situation you're in right then. Let's say you're in a job that you just don't like, but you feel pressure that you have to keep the job. You've got to pay your bills and you're not happy, and maybe there's chaos at work. All of those things affect us. And so that's why I believe, we need to do things like taking self-care time. I know you talk about that, exercise. What are your thoughts on exercise for someone who, especially who doesn't like to exercise?
Well, the first thing I say to them is you cannot run your fork.
Yeah.
So, I mean, exercise is not going to make you lose weight if you're not eating correctly.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And if you're eating correctly, you have more energy so that you can do the exercise.
Yeah.
And well, some people will never enjoy exercise, but what I was going to say is that when people, an important thing for clients to understand is that eating right is not the only thing they need to do. They want to be healthy.
Exactly.
And the question is, do you want to lose weight or do you want to get healthy?
That's right.
Because they're not the same thing.
You're exactly
You can
right.
lose weight and still be very unhealthy because health includes your mental status, your relationships, the world around you, how you relate to the world around you. If you're overweight and unhealthy, it's because you have habits of disease that you've developed throughout your life.
Yeah.
And with any habit, you can't just take a habit away from somebody.
Yeah.
You have to replace it with something else because it leaves a void, and something's going to come in that
Yeah,
void.
gotta
Either
fill it
that-
with something
either-
good.
Either the bad
Yeah.
habit's going to come back, or are you going to put a good habit in there to replace it?
Yeah.
And if you don't put the good habit in there to replace it, they haven't lost that old habit. So
right.
that's what I talk about, developing habits of health. And we develop one habit at a time.
Yeah.
Because you can't develop 15 habits at one time.
Oh no! And
get
you
overwhelmed
and
and you
it
just can't
takes
do
more
it.
than a week to do it too. By the way,
It takes a lot of time.
it takes a few weeks and more to change habits, but you've got to have that dedication first. And this is one of those times when I wish we really did have an hour show because it feels like we're just getting into this. So. I'll have to have you come back again too during
Okay.
the series that I'm doing so we can talk about this because I just feel like it's important information. But I guess if I had anything to say to you tonight, it would be, you know what? Be happy with yourself. Don't judge yourself so much when you look in the mirror, but work on yourself. And there's people out there like Jean, like me. There's so many other people that can work with you and help you. It's already time to close this show, and it seems like we just
got started.
Anyway, we hope you have a good evening, and I know you're going to enjoy Linda Prezioso coming on in just a few minutes. So thank you so much,
You're welcome.
Jean, for coming on, and I hope
Happy to
see
be
you
here.
again soon.
Yes.